Welcome to Sip, Sell, Repeat, the real estate podcast for women who know success is best served with a great cup of coffee or a well-earned glass of wine. I'm Dr. Cynthia Tant, your go-to real estate expert, here to help you navigate the market with strategy, style, and a little bit of fun. Whether you're flipping your first property, scaling your portfolio, or just dreaming about your next big move, this is the place for you. So grab your drink of choice, settle in, and let's sip, sell, and repeat our way to success. Let's get started. I would like to invite everybody to listen up. We have got a guest today, and it's Sip, Sell, Repeat in real estate. And this particular podcast is just for fun. We're out going to share some information as women in the business, whether it's realtors or B&B investors, how we can help each other go through this whole journey, I guess we would say. And I am very fortunate to have Brittany Blackman here. And Brittany and I actually are just down the road from each other in the wonderful Florida Panhandle. Beautiful beaches, and it's grown quite a bit. Brittany, I didn't even ask you, how long have you been in this particular area?
Oh, great question. It has grown so much. I really lost count, but I would say I've probably been down here maybe about 15, and then that 15 to 20 year range.
Okay. You are from the South, obviously. So I am too. I'm a native Floridian, but I don't have the real Southern drawl because I'm from South Florida. So where are you from?
Oh, that's it. That's so fun. I'm from North Georgia.
Okay.
Yes.
And around Atlanta, where is that?
So North Georgia, I'm actually from Chatsworth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you a
Okay.
fun
North
fact.
Georgia. Okay.
It's next to Dalton, Georgia, which
Okay.
is and was the carpet capital of the world. So I'm sure
Oh,
it doesn't take too much to understand why I wanted to move to Destin, Florida.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit of a jump here. You're a couple hours, or what
Yeah.
about 5 hours south, and by driving and getting out of the area. That's interesting. I was a college professor. Came here to West Florida many years, long time ago. Let's just say 1994. And so my previous career was in teaching and at academia. But I started investing in real estate. I got here, and I tell people I didn't know what I was doing. There weren't podcasts, there weren't webinars, there wasn't the information back then. Like I tell people, I started in academia when the internet was starting. No, you didn't. I said, yes, I did. It was in the 80s, okay, but the big computers and all that. Long story. But coming to Pensacola, my first in the Pensacola area as a student at the University of West Florida in the 70s, and came back as a professor. So when I got here, I had no idea about real estate. Fortunately, I was introduced to a realtor who was a real estate investor. And she helped my brother and I get started. Don't buy 10 properties in 3 months. That's ridiculous. But that's what we did. However, back then we got two duplexes and a triplex for $62,000. So that was a big difference on the prices today, which we still own.
Very
So,
impressive.
overlooking the water. But anyways, that will never happen again today. So I'm going to get off of what I'm talking about because I really want to have you share how you sold a vacation rental business and then to really find out what you're doing today. So take it away, girl. What do we got?
Absolutely. So we'll fast track it. Again, I'm from North Georgia, came to Destin on spring break, decided to move down here, started doing some odd and end jobs. Similar to you, like I didn't really know much about the vacation rental industry, but it was very big here in the Florida Panhandle. And so my very first job and introduction to the industry was as a reservationist with a property management company. And so I jumped in there. Very long story short, the ops manager walked out a few weeks after I first started. And I was like, okay, this is cool. So what do we do? And there's so many facets of the business. So I just started jumping in. I am OCD perfectionist by trade. So just started putting the puzzle pieces together, but in a sense, rebuilding the business because he walked out with everything. And so did that very quickly. The owners of the business at the time lived here locally. And then I think within 6 months of that, they asked me if they could move to Alabama to be closer to their family. And so, like the people pleasers we are, I said, yes, no problem. I got this. I had no idea what I was doing in my young 20s, but I was determined to figure it out. And so that is what I did. I worked my way up to office manager and then eventually ops manager for the company. So I was running everything, keeping the owners of the company abreast. We grew from, I think, probably about 40 properties to up to over 100 in the 9 years that I was there. We were always very focused on slow and steady growth, and we had a lot of things to fix because when I stepped in, I can't say that everything was in the best of condition. And so basically rebuilding, repairing, and then growth from that point. And so fast forward then to 2020, COVID happened. We had to lay staff off. It was a huge transition time. And I just started doing a lot of self-reflection. If you recall, we were at home with our families all day, every day. And I really just started asking myself, like, what's next? What am I doing? And I had the thoughts and we'd had the discussions prior, but it really hit home of I want to have my own business. And I believe that much in travel. So in Florida, we were literally shut down by our governor, could not rent. And I believed so much in tourism that I reapproached the owners and said, I really want to buy this business. And of course, they thought I was crazy. They originally were like okay with it. They wound up having a change of heart. They weren't ready to sell the business. And so I then had to make that next decision. I was ready. And so I wound up turning in my notice and then decided to start my own vacation rental company here in the Panhandle. And so took a couple months to work on the back end operations, get everything branding and everything set up, started that business, which was Breathe Easy Rentals. And then fast forward, everything's going great. Everything's going awesome. 2023 is rolling around. And I start asking myself these similar questions. What's life about? Is this all that you're meant for? Are you meant for something different? Went down this whole personal development track and came to the realization for a lot of different reasons that selling the business was the best opportunity for me and where I was at with my life and my family. And so began that journey of putting the business up for sale, getting the team in place, worked through that for about a year and then sold that business at the end of 2024. And then, of course, I had to ask myself, okay, what's next? Looked at coaching, looked at consulting, didn't really know, honestly, too much about coaching, but stuck my toe into it, wound up very similar to vacation rentals, diving into it. It's also an unregulated Wild West industry. So I was like, oh, I got this. I know what that's like. And I've just fallen, like I said, fallen so deep into it. Absolutely love that coaching approach. And so now working with some individuals, working with some teams, and just bringing the fun back into the business and helping people save a little bit of their sanity.
Especially in this profession, you've been the ups and downs. And I know when COVID hit, we weren't closed as much as other states were, so we were really busy. I don't know, I'm sure you guys were too. A month or 2 months was down, and then all of a sudden, whammo. That's when we saw, and I don't know about you, but since you did sell your business or develop it, where we saw a lot of people come into the area just buying up and wanting to do short-term rentals and wanting to do the Airbnb model, and oh, we're going to make all this money. It was okay for a short period of time. What did you find when you left your company, your former company? I'm going to go real briefly. I'm going to come back to the coaching, but I want to go real
Absolutely.
briefly into when they changed their mind. And so you're starting from scratch, but you were the public face of that other company, weren't you? Okay,
Yes.
so they worked with you. Did you see any owners jump ship? Did you have a no compete kind of thing with it? How did that work for you? Because I know that you did eventually, like you said, you started your own company.
Absolutely. So I did not have any sort of contract nor any sort of non-compete in the industry. And so that in that sense legally was very easy to get out of. However, I do have a conscience. I wanted to sleep well at night. And so I'm going to be honest with you, I was very careful. I went so far to keep things separated where I bought different pens and different notepads, and I never mixed the time. Everything that I did was always literally on. I used a different pen to write my
Yeah.
stuff because I never wanted to mix those things. The conversation with owners was, hey, Brittany's leaving. I'm out of here, and close that tie. It was up to that company at that point to pick that up how they wanted to handle that conversation. And so a few owners did reach out. They had actually had my personal cell phone number. Over the years. I grew out of that some, so most
Yeah.
people just had the business line.
I
But
know
when
the
you're,
business phone.
you know
Yeah.
how it is. When you're
Yeah.
starting and you're small, you just just call me, no problem.
Hey,
And
yeah,
then you realize
anytime. Okay, whatever.
I
Yeah.
need to set some boundaries. So a few of those owners did have it. And I was very careful if they just reached out to me and said, oh, Brittany, thank you so much. And great to hear from you, whatever. I left it at that. If they intentionally said, Brittany, what's next? What are you doing? Then I answered that question. And so I tried to do what I thought was morally correct, where I could sleep at night. And so again, it was up to them to pick that up, move forward. And then honestly, my focus was now I'm the face or brand of a completely different company.
And that's very commendable because that doesn't happen a lot in this business. And by doing that, obviously you could sleep at night, but you could also face everybody else and give that sense of this accomplishment is because it's my business that I'm putting together. It's my personality, it's my drive, it's my passion. Since you had been in that industry for so long, and you're not that old, okay? But anyways, going through that and then seeing how you transitioned from that and understanding it. And so it took you, how long did it take you to sell the company, to put it together? Did you use a business broker? I've had people come to me and want to buy my company from me. And I'm going, I'm not ready yet. I'm a little older, but I'm not ready yet. So how did that all happen?
Great question. So I think one of the advantages of going through what I had been through at the prior company, because again, we had actually had conversations in prior years about me wanting to purchase the company, but there was no succession plan in place.
Oh.
And so having gone through that roller coaster, I knew when I was made the decision to look into selling the business that I needed to get a broker because honestly, I needed like an emotional buddy. So,
Operation. Yeah.
yeah, like I needed somebody to be that mediator in the middle for me because I knew what emotional roller coaster I was going to put myself through in selling my own baby and my business. Did I really have any idea what it was going to be like? No. Am I? No. Am I so thankful that I got a broker? Absolutely. There were so many advantages, especially having someone who was industry specific, who knew that. There were offers that got made that if I wouldn't have had someone who was familiar with the industry, I would have agreed to terms and conditions that I wouldn't have known any better, probably gotten myself out of some money that I was due
Served. Yeah.
dutifully. Yeah. And so for me, it's hard, right? Because all of us set up our businesses differently. I knew from the day I opened my business that it was going to go for sale one day because I knew I don't have children of my own. I have a stepson. He was never going to touch it. And I never wanted to bank on the idea of, oh, what if the perfect employee comes into play that wants to buy it one
Right.
day? If that happened, it happened. But that
Right.
wasn't the succession plan. The succession plan from day one was you need to build it to sell it. I've cleaned up accounting problems that took years to do.
Yes.
And so starting the business, accounting was huge for me, making sure I knew where every dollar in and dollar out went to. I could tell the story at all times. So I was very structured about it from the get-go. Everybody has that opportunity, but you can absolutely get there even if you have an established business. So for me, I will say I felt like the experience was very easy. Turned over all the numbers to the broker. He came back to me and said, okay, this is what we're looking at. This is where I see your valuation. And I said, okay, what do we need to do to get it to here? Had those conversations. We waited a little bit. I chose to try to go through some personal contacts first to find a buyer. After that, didn't really work for what I wanted it for in the first few months. Then we went to local market. And then I think just to keep it speedy, due diligence, you get asked a billion and one about
Yes.
anything and everything to the business. So being prepared and being able to answer those in full transparency and honesty. And so just went through that process, answered the questions, and then you sign the paperwork, and then that transition period began.
And then how long did it take you to transition out as far as?
I had an extremely short transition period. So I would say
Okay.
in industry standard is anywhere between 3 to 9 months. Really depends on how the
Which
business is structured
degree
and your
this, yeah,
involvement.
your
You know,
involvement. Yeah.
a year to a little less is somewhat what I heard was very typical. My transition period was less than a month.
Oh, geez. Did you have a
It
bigger
was,
company absorb it? Did you have a bigger company? No. Wow.
no,
Okay.
they were smaller. The family that bought mine, though, the husband has experience in working with businesses and consulting. So I think he was, how do I say this the right way? He came into the sale knowing that he needed to know the basics and the fundamentals. And I think he was really aware that the rest was on him to implement. And not everybody comes into it with that thought process. I was
Oh.
thankful for it. And I'm still here. They every now and then they'll shoot me an email, send me a text message or whatever if something crazy pops up. But at the end of the day, it really is their decisions, it's their values that now
Right.
lead that business. And so I think they were just really aware of that. And also it got me out of the way because the longer I stayed, the more it was Brittany's way of doing things, Brittany's beliefs that were going to be there. And while that's great sometimes, I think they also realized that they wanted to pick the ball up and go running with it. We had a great team in place. And so they had that ability to just take the ball and keep running.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great. A month? Oh my gosh, I would love that. I may have to talk to you later on about your broker guy.
Deal.
But yeah. Oh, great. Now you've transitioned into the coaching. So it seems like every time you've made these decisions, there has been a lot of thought. There has been a lot of bouncing back and forth. I'm assuming with your partner, your husband, kids maybe involved or not, who knows at this point in time. But then getting into the coaching, I came personally, I started as a college coach in the 70s when I got out of school. So I know the coaching from a physical standpoint. But then I've been teaching. I started teaching my whole life. I was like 25 years, and then I got into real estate, and then where I'm at right now. But we have, I think, as women, I think we sometimes don't give ourselves enough credit for what we've done and what we've achieved. And so then talking with other successful women, especially sip, sell, repeat, and I've had some amazing women come on and talk about their businesses and all different things, whether they're realtors or brokers or fitness trainers for specifically for high energy realtors. And then the B&B business, which has been just so hot. So leaving that probably was, like you said, your baby, but it was gone. So then I'm hoping you had a little bit of ramp up into the coaching part. So how did we get there and how did you get into, because you've got the personality where one of your things that you mentioned as far as people pleasing, how do we get, because we always constantly don't say no
Yeah.
and get overwhelmed. And then what have you found in your direction? I love your 3 points that I'd like for you to explain more about in your coaching part so that anybody who's listening, my understanding is anybody who's listening, you'll be glad to give them a little coaching session today or at some point in time when they listen to the podcast. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So tell us about what you're doing now and give us why not people pleasing? Let's start with that one.
I was going to say we can go all over the place.
Oh, that one I know.
Whew, people pleasing. So I will say part of my coaching education that I've been going through, I didn't realize how much personal development I was going to get out of it and how rewarding it was going to be for me just learning and really embracing this new mindset. And what I can say firsthand that I experienced is that I was going through coaching school at the same time and the same year of selling my business. So I had two
Oh, jeez.
personalities. It was great, super awesome. I literally said that I had two different lives because everything had to stay separate, everything had to stay confidential. But the benefit was that I got a lot of coaching going through that education. And again, I learned so much about myself. I realized where my perfectionism came from, how it was advantageous, but how it held me back a lot. And I learned a lot about that people pleasing and where it came from and why I had that. And there's really no way for me to sugarcoat it other than you have to have that awareness. You have to connect those dots. And then that's where that freedom comes from, where you get to decide what to do with it. Just because you learned certain ways from your own mother or from women that you've seen and grown up with, those patterns get ingrained in you, but that's not that you have to live the rest of your life that way. And so it looked like self-acceptance. It looked like sitting with myself, understanding who I was. I didn't even know what my personal values were. I thought I knew. I had some words picked out, but they didn't truly represent, like, at my core who I was. And it was truly a self-discovery journey of like understanding who I was as a person and what I needed. And eventually over time, I think of it a lot of stretching that muscle. You learn through practice and conversation to let go that you don't need that external validation. You learn what it's like to set healthy boundaries. My favorite is no is a complete sentence. That's all you have to say is
Love it. And I think the Southern culture attributes a lot of this. So we've come up in our Southern upbringing, and it's the yes ma'am, the yes sir, very polite, I still say it, and I'm in my late 60s, and I'm still saying it to people. But I think that also contributes to a lot of misconceptions about who we are. And I like that as no is a complete sentence. I love that. And that's something, I will take that away with this, but and also another thing from what I know that you talk about is speaking as a leader, but not being the bossy person, not being overbearing, because again, I think women again are very different in their approach. Lead me into some information about that.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that comes up quite a bit of how can I lead and be respected and not feared and seen as the what of the group. And I think at its very fundamental core, you have to sit down with yourself and you have to ask yourself, what kind of leader do I want to be? And one of my most favorite questions is, what do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? And how many of us have actually given proactive, intentional thought to that? It's a hard question to answer. It's a hard question. And again, at the simplest, you can start with that. What do you want people to say about you? What do you want to be known for? What are the characteristics of people that you've experienced that you like or that you don't like? And when you start giving intentions to those thoughts and make a list and understand the patterns and what are the like similarities and characteristics, then you really can start to evolve and understand who you are personally and who you want to be professionally. Some women might want two different personalities, and that's completely fine. I'm not here to stop them. Some
Yes.
people might want to live in their values and don't want that, but you're never going to know that if you don't sit with yourself. One thing for me is there's a lot of noise on social media. I don't know
Oh
how you
gosh.
feel.
Oh no. I know.
So much pressure, so much you should be this and you should do that, and it gets loud. And what happens is when you don't sit with these questions and you don't sit with yourself, you become the leader for everybody. And when you're the leader for everybody and you're people pleasing and you're saying yes to all of them, who are you? Like in marketing, they always say if you talk to everybody, you talk to nobody. And I relate that into our leadership style. If you're everybody's leader, then who are you? Because everybody is probably confused. And if you can't answer those your own questions of who you are, how you want to lead, what you want to be known for, what impact you want to make, nobody else can answer those for you. And so, again, I know it sounds really simplistic, but like taking the time to sit with yourself and to work through some questions and really define that. And then I think next step from there is giving yourself some grace. We're really hard on ourselves
Oh,
and we really expect, oh, tomorrow I'm going to be that leader. Tomorrow's going to be the different day. Guess what? Stuff hit the fan. You're answering a guest at 12 a.m. like we were joking about. give yourself some grace. Understand that life is going to happen. Now, if you continue to avoid and you continue to not make changes, there's a reason behind that needs to be dug into. But if you give yourself some grace and realize that perfectionism, we joke about it, it can go out the window. It doesn't serve us. And you just have to understand that sometimes you just have to start practice. And somebody said this once that I really liked, that when you focus on perfectionism, it means that something's done. It's full, it's complete. And it's the exact opposite of creativity, which to me, like, I was like, my mind was just blown in that, because I think as women, most of us want to be creative in the sense that we want to build, we want to connect, we want to serve, we want to make that impact. So if our focus is on that perfectionism and that people pleasing, we're at the exact opposite side of the spectrum. It means we're done, but it's completely contradictory to like what our heart is. Our heart is to build and create that sense. And so even something like that, to just realize that misalignment and to put in some of that focus on what you want to be and what are the intentional steps and actions to get there, I think it can create a huge shift, and it's not so overwhelming. I'm not giving you a list of 400 things you need to
Oh,
do.
I think one of the things that you touched on is that connection, and just meeting people like we did at VR Nation. And man, I didn't know you spoke at so many things. And I went back and looked and I said, oh my gosh, she's all over the place. That was my younger days too, but not now. Okay. I love what I'm doing, and I commend you for doing that and being out there and connecting with so many people, because I think the next shiny object comes along. And so a lot of, if they don't have that direction or whatever, or haven't learned it yet, then they're on the next step, especially when you start talking about the technology that's involved and everything that we're seeing today, which is mind blowing. But then also, I think, like you said, also mindset. The younger generation growing up on computers and iPads and phones, and I'm having a difficult time with, let's say, not me, yeah, sorry, me personally, is trying to connect with that younger person in a sense that I'm an assistant. Would you put down your phone and listen to me? I'm talking to you. Let's face back and forth here. Put down the phone. Let's talk. Just really have that conversation, trying to encourage, especially in this profession where we're dealing with people all the time, and we're trying to be the best of, on our best behavior for the hospitality, which sometimes it's a little strenuous, as we know. But from how we as women communicate with each other and connect with each other, what are some things that you suggest with your coaching and everything, as far as looking forward to, or how can we get involved with you as a coach and the directions that you would like to see someone go in?
Absolutely. So I'm going to reverse answer this a little bit. This was actually, I made a post about this, I think like a week ago. When you talk about like the different generations, they are different. They're not motivated by money. They're not motivated by the mindset of you choose a job and you stay in that job forever. I said this again the other day, like, they've heard the stories that you walk to work and school uphill both ways in the snow in your flip-flops for all of your life,
I
and they don't want to
don't want
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
see the burnout, they see the unhappiness. Like, even think about one of Airbnb's newest releases about these experiences and all
Yeah.
the chatter about that.
Yeah.
The generations, they love experiences. So as much as we put that into play in travel, they want experience at work too. They don't want to be miserable. They don't want to be workhorses. They want to come in and enjoy and be engaged and be part of your vision. So, as a business owner, founder, if you don't know what is the driving direction of your company and what's that vision and those values, and you can't help people connect the dots of what part they play in that, you're going to have that disengagement. They don't understand. And the other part of what you said too, which is really important, is they're so used to their phones, which means, and I don't mean this in any bad way, but I call it like the ADHD brain, which is just the squirrel brain. And there's science proving that with this squirrel brain, to get those people engaged, they need to understand what they're doing and they need to understand the impact. And there's the hyper focus part of the ADHD brain where when people with that can get really hyper focused, get really in tune, where like you could talk to them and they don't even pay attention to you. So again, like understanding that psychology in the workplace, because that's how these people are, that's how their brains have changed and evolved now, and they need to understand the bigger picture and they need to understand their part of it. And so you can as simply as go into chat gpt and say,
Oh,
what's the difference in
excuse me.
gen alpha, gen beta versus baby boomers, and how do I work with these people in the workplace? That can give you some fun, free, quick ideas on that. And so I love doing things like that to see what that has to say. But going back towards that, sorry, I was just passionate
No,
about
no,
that
no,
topic.
no. Yeah, no. I'm just now finding one of my, the gal that's working with me on the podcast. She goes, I use Chat GPT for everything. I ask it, okay, I use it for a little bit, but I guess I'm going to have to see what's out there because and she comes up and she brings all this stuff to me. I go, that's a really good idea. Well, I told you I use Chat GPT. I said, oh my God, okay. I said, I used my brain before, when you had to create and you had to do your own lesson plans and you had your coaching, you didn't, I did do an experiment when I asked for an outline. I went, oh my God, it just did this in 5 minutes. I didn't have to spend hours at it. And then you just start asking all this other stuff I was blown away and I should have known it earlier, but I haven't been focusing on it that much.
Very
But
fair. Very
yeah,
fair. It can be a monster. It can, I think the other message is you don't want it to take over your voice just as much as social media is noisy. You can let AI take over your voice as well. So I think there is a fine line of how do you use it to save time, to think faster, quicker, but don't let it think for you all the time. That's
all
not
the
healthy
time.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it's okay. The brain is shrinking up anyways, where we're not thinking through things. And it's okay. I had a situation, this was years ago, but just with a calculator. We were doing an example in class and you had to add 7 and 4. And this guy gets his calculator out. I said, can you not add 7 and 4? I like went and tapped him on the back of the head and he just laughed at me. He goes, oh, Dr. Tant, I can. I said, then why don't you use your brain to do it? I got the calculator here. I went, oh my God, what are we doing here? But from the coaching perspective, so as you started this, actually this year then, is you're rolling this year? So you've rolled it out. And I know you're attending a lot of things and you're doing your own podcast. What's your podcast? What's your name of your podcast?
I haven't actually kicked that off
Didn't go off
yet.
yet?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
No, I was thinking about it, but I'm working
Okay.
on the side on some leadership courses. So stay
Okay.
tuned.
So you're doing some courses. Okay. And you have Instagram, I'm assuming you have
I
Instagram?
do. I'm on
Okay.
Instagram, Facebook,
Okay.
very
So
heavy on
is it just
LinkedIn.
on your name? Is it just your name or is it something Instagram? I'm
Yes.
trying to, yeah, it's your
So
name.
so Instagram and Facebook are on as Discover Freedom, which is
Discover
the name
Freedom.
of the coaching company. And
Discover
then
Freedom. Okay.
LinkedIn is primarily going to be under my name, Brittany Blackman.
And an email that we can maybe share with our group that's to get in touch with you if they're interested in getting some coaching from you. What would be your
Yeah,
email?
absolutely. That's going to be all in, just like you're jumping all in.
All
So
in.
all in at discoverfreedom.life.
That's awesome. So discoverfreedom.life. Okay. And so part of what you're doing obviously is coaching, but you said you've got leadership courses coming up. What are some other things that we can look forward to?
So the leadership courses are really big. When I originally came into coaching, it was a lot of one-on-one working with people inside and outside of the industry, mainly in small businesses. And just over the past 6 months, what I've learned is there's such a big gap in leadership skills. And what this looks like in a lot of small businesses is that people come in, they're great employees, they're dedicated, they show up, but they've never really been taught these skill sets like how to delegate, how to deal with conflict, how to give feedback the right way. But they get promoted into these positions and they just don't really fit the bill anymore, right? But they're such a great employee, so you don't want to let them go. And at this point, I've coached the owners and the founders, and then I've also coached those team members. So what I realized in that, in those conversations, was, wow, there's a huge gap right here, because they don't know what resources to ask for. Owners and founders don't know what resources, because in small business, a lot of us haven't been through college, haven't learned these things. And so that's where, between the courses that I'll be offering, a lot of the content that I provide out on social, and then also just working again one-on-one and with teams, that's where we start digging into this stuff, and we start understanding, where did the people pleasing come from? If it's not working for you, it's getting in your way, what do we need to do about it? Why aren't you delegating? Time management, you're horrible at it. Okay, let's start looking at what makes it challenging for you. What are some techniques and different things? And so we really just start taking a few of these leadership skills and just start unpacking them, unwinding them, helping you connect the dots so you understand where that pattern came from. And that way you can also then decide what you want to do with it as far as moving forward. Is it a mindset shift? Is it a different action or a habit that you start taking? And really, I'll be honest with you, it just starts turning into a snowball effect. So we start working with one thing, and then you just start building and building from there.
Well, that sounds exciting for you. So you have an enthusiasm about what you can see the passion of how you've shifted in the mindset, and then the passion that you can share with others. And so I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see where you go with this. And since you're just down the road a little bit, maybe we'll have to come over and sip a coffee or a cocktail or something one night, and talk a little bit about this business here. And we'll finish up. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our ladies about what you do and how we can get in touch with you? Anything like that at all to close out with?
I think the biggest thing for me is just reiterating, you're not alone. It can be, I think, no matter where you're at in business and in life, there can be this point where you come to where you just feel really alone. You feel like you're not enough. You feel that weight of the world on you. And what I would say is, it is a normal feeling. It's not okay or healthy to stay there in that mindset for too long. It's very, very unhealthy for your body and your mind. But just being able to give that grace and say, you know what, this is a normal part of it. The next step is, let me find my community. Let me find my voice, and let me find those people. I thank you for doing podcasts like these, because this is one of the simplest ways that you can be part of a community, and just normalizing the conversation that this stuff is hard. It doesn't mean that we just fall down and need the white horse to come save us, but it's okay to say, this is hard. I'm going through challenges. This sucks. Now what do I do about it next? How do I move forward? And just always having that progression, I think, is just really important. Now, I wish I would have heard that message sooner in my career.
Well, I think we all do that. It's just, I wish I would have bought more real estate. I did buy a lot of it, but even more when I look at now, those kinds of things. But I think the challenge is up there. And Brittany, I want to thank you so much for joining Sip, Sell, Repeat. I want to thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll stay in touch. And ladies, if you want to get back with Brittany and find out some information and get onto her coaching, please do. And I'm going to be getting in touch with you too. So don't leave yet, but I want to say, let's close off for today at Sip, Sell, Repeat Real Estate. And this is Dr. Cynthia Tant. Have a great day. And thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of Sip, Sell, Repeat. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another powerhouse woman in real estate. Got a topic you want me to cover? Send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep sipping, keep selling, and keep repeating that cycle of success. Cheers to you and your next big deal.